Rachel Maddow said something last night on Stephen Colbert, and I want to share it with you because I have some thoughts.
This was going to be the people who were really hysterical, like really the doomsayers, they were all right about how bad this is. And what we're experiencing is not just somebody who's fighting against the Democratic Party, he's fighting against the democratic process. He doesn't think there should be elections. And they are consolidating power, they're disempowering Congress, and ignoring Congress. When they're defunding agencies or closing agencies, that's Congress's job, that's not the president's job. When they're defying court orders, that's them saying that the courts don't have authority over the president. That's consolidating all power in one man, that's authoritarianism. And that's what you do when you don't ever want to have an election because you want to stay in power for life. And that is what they're trying. All the worst predictions about what he'd be like are true. But the best hopes for how much the American people would stand up against it have not even matched a fraction of how much people are standing up and how much people are saying no. There's never in the history of this country been an American president who's been this unpopular at 100 days in. The American public is saying no.
Okay, so Rachel said a whole lot of things there. First of all, she's not wrong. And I have not heard a single person who was predicting that things would be this bad, who has accurately predicted the horrific nature of the Trump regime. I've not heard a single person who did that now saying, I told y'all so, I told you so. What I've heard those people saying is, yep, we knew it was going to be this bad. We've been preparing and we're getting to work now fighting it. We know exactly what his playbook is. It's a classic authoritarian move, as Rachel said, trying to consolidate power, delegitimize the courts, take away power from Congress. They don't even have to take it away. Republicans in Congress are like, please, sir, take all our power, completely seize all of our control, all of our constitutional duties from it. We freely give them up to you. He's trying to take control of universities. He's trying to take control of law firms. He is trying to crack down and crush any dissent, any opposition to his power, right? He loves to call migrants gang members and thugs. He is the ultimate thug. He rules like a mafia bully because he doesn't actually have any legitimate power. He doesn't actually have any legitimate leadership qualities whatsoever. And he doesn't even have a mandate from the people. He won by this tiny, tiny sliver. And the only way he could win was by lying about what he was going to do. Remember when he said, Project 2025 is not my plan? I've never heard of Project 2025, when the entire time it was his plan to hire the architects of Project 2025 and to implement from day one every aspect of it. So the only way he won was by lying, and then he's becoming incredibly unpopular because his policies are incredibly unpopular. The thing that Rachel was saying there about how we have not seen a president have their approval ratings tank this hard in the first 100 days, like since the history of polling. He doesn't represent the will of the people, and the fact that what he's doing is so unpopular means that he doesn't have any mandate to rule whatsoever, and he's not going to be able to hold on to that power in any legitimate way, and that's why he's got to seize power from other branches of government. And he's got to scare the shit out of the American people to try to get us to give up, to try to make us be so terrorized, so afraid that we don't fight back. And we just let him do all of the illegal things that he is trying to do. And I talked about that in my last video, the fact that he is trying to send innocent people to more torture prisons in more countries, including Libya, whose prison system is known for extreme violence, beatings, death, trafficking, slavery, rape, torture, just unbelievably cruel, inhumane conditions. Trump chose that place on purpose because he wants to scare every American into submitting and like backing off from resisting, because we will be so scared that he might send us someplace like that. But as Rachel said at the end, and this is the most important part of her interview there, Elon Musk, Curtis Yarvin, I talked about this months ago, the technocrat bros, they said part of the reason that they felt like their plan was going to be so easy to implement is because we were all weak and we would never stand up and fight, that they would just like waltz right on in and we would say, please just take over. We're so weak. We're so incredibly demure and passive that we'll just let you have it all. Yarvin has said repeatedly that Americans are easy pickings because we wouldn't fight back, and that it would be super easy for the technocrats to take over. And Trump and the fascists, the Christo-fascists, Project 2025 people, they thought the same thing, that it would be easy pickings, that we would just let them roll on in and we would not put up much of a fight at all. But what we're seeing is a mass, organized, rapidly growing, momentum-building resistance of millions and millions of people. I know I've said this before, but I love the way that Ezra Levin, who is the co-founder of Indivisible, he talks about the fact that all of these little Indivisible chapters are just like little pebbles, right? All over the country. But together we form this incredibly powerful aggregate. Together, we're like that big block of concrete. We're all cemented together and we make a really formidable force. But it's not just the aggregate power of all of these indivisible chapters. There are all kinds of other grassroots organizations, 5051, Surge, Public Citizen League of Conservation Voters, Extinction Rebellion, Repairers in the Breach, DSA, all kinds of union groups, American Federation of Teachers, the Federal Employees Union, Alt National Park Service, progressive elected officials who are vigorously standing up, and not just members of Congress, but we're also watching governors and attorneys general, institutions that are refusing to bend the knee, coalitions of hundreds of colleges and universities who are saying, fuck off, we're not going to bend the knee like Columbia did. We're not going to be collaborators with fascism. We're not going to sell out our students and sell out our country. Lawyers, law firms that are standing up. Perkins Coie just won a really big lawsuit. They told the Trump regime, get fucked, you can't extort us. And the courts were like, yep, that's right. That executive order, null and void. Well, that's not the legal term for it, but I'm not a lawyer. We're seeing really rapid organization, planning, strategy being carried out by groups like Pramila Jayapal's Resistance Lab. Support and education from folks all over the world who have successfully resisted and overthrown authoritarian regimes through nonviolent, peaceful means. They're lending their expertise to us. Because we know that authoritarians like this, they follow kind of a set script. And so we can gain support from and learn skills from folks who have done this before. We're looking at millions and millions of people engaged in economic blackouts, withholding their money from the economy, in particular, withholding it from businesses that support what Trump is doing. There is massive resistance everywhere. And one of the things I've been talking about a lot the last few days is that we need to think more and more about how in every part of our lives we can engage in non-cooperation with this regime. We need to educate people about the fact that Donald Trump likes to pretend he's really powerful. He likes to act like he has all of this power and control. But we know that power doesn't actually work that way. It's not really top down. It's really bottom up. And that the leader at the top, he's actually incredibly vulnerable. He's this little teetering block that is held up by all of these pillars of support, all of these people and institutions who are willing to obey him and do his will, carry out his horrific plans. I like to keep calling them horrific plans because they're incredibly horrific. They're evil plans. I don't use that word very often. I don't use it lightly. And the more we can think about our strategy as not only how do we draw people into the movement and get them to be actively resisting this regime, but also like how can we just get people to withdraw their support, not even necessarily lend their support to us, but just no longer participate in the behaviors that uphold Trump. One example that's brought up a lot is the military. How do we get them to just not follow orders? They don't have to actively turn against Trump. Just don't follow his orders. Just be non-cooperative. Don't fire on your neighbors, on your children. We are watching the momentum build and build and build, and people coming up with more creative, inspiring, new strategies every day. What are the different ways that we can effectively, through nonviolent discipline, counter this regime? What can we do to erode those pillars of support? What are the tried and true techniques that we've used in this country, women's suffrage and the civil rights movement, but also that people around the world have used over the last few decades and even as recently as last year? But also what new, cool, inventive, effective strategies are people going to come up with? The more we can bring people in with new ideas, new creativity, the more we're going to uncover really good tactics that work really well at undermining this regime, at making it topple and reinstituting democracy. I would argue instituting a more democratic system than we had before Trump came to power, one that really works for the working class, one that really brings an end to the oligarchy that had been rising in the US for decades. I know things are really scary right now, but I really want you guys to be encouraged. I completely agree with what Rachel said. They did not expect us to fight back this hard, and we're just getting going, y'all. We are still in the gathering our strength and crafting our plans phase. We're still in the building the framework. We've not even begun to demonstrate how much power we have because ultimately, remember, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. And already, even at this phase, Trump and his sycophants, they're real scared of us. They are trying to crack down so hard. They are implementing outrageously horrific plans. They are making ridiculously outrageous false claims because they're really scared because they did not expect us to fight back like this. And they've only seen a fraction of what's to come.